Hi, Sharon Raji Maynard here. So glad to have you popping in on some of these little short videos. Love introducing you to new ideas and new people. And today I'm really thrilled to have with me Jacqueline Freeman. And as you can see, she has special interest in her life that she's going to talk to us about, and that is bees. And I think there's a lot of people around the world who are concerned about bees, love bees. And so you are right in the right place, Jacqueline. So thank you for being here and welcome.
Thank you. Yes, and I love the idea about people learning about bees before they become a beekeeper. Not everybody has to become a beekeeper to appreciate them and to help them.
I think that's a really good point, because I know I don't live on a farm. I have a farm kind of in my area that I'm living on. It's not mine. And one of the things that comes to my mind is I want to have bees, but I don't get bees because I don't know that I have enough what it takes to be a beekeeper. So how can I help? Oh, good.
I don't want you to feel any compulsion to any reason that you have to have bees. I frankly think that more people could help bees by simply becoming better gardeners and planting more things that bees will get the nectars and the pollens from. So I tell people, don't jump in with both feet and become a beekeeper, because you're probably going to make mistakes that are going to end up hurting bees in the short run, in the long run. So garden first. You know, they all need to be fed. So plant some apple trees, plant some berry bushes, plant some flowers, lavenders and herbs and rosemaries and all these things that bees need on a daily basis. And you don't have to have a hive on your land. Frankly, there's a lot of wild hives that will come in good areas and they'll set up housekeeping in hollow trees and things like that.
Huh. Where would they get the knowing what seeds would be best? Do you have a place that would be good for them to know about?
In every area, you know, if you're on Facebook, in every area there's a garden club, and I guarantee you they'll know answers to questions like that. You can also order seeds from a lot of the organic companies that are area specific. So for example, Xerces.org, Xerces.org, is based in the Pacific Northwest, but they put out, they're a nonprofit that teaches people about pollinators, more than just bees, pollinators, butterflies, and other insects like that. And they'll have a packet of seeds, a package of seeds, a big package that you can buy for the Southwest North America, or for the Upper East Coast, or the Pacific Northwest. So they've already done the research for you. And there's a few good organic seed companies that have done that same thing. So just check wherever you buy your organic seeds. See if they have already made up a batch of seeds that you can plant that are good for local areas. And the fallback is just go plant some herbs, because all the flowering herbs have two purposes. One for bees. One of them is, of course, they have the pollen and the nectar for them, and that's good for food for the bees themselves. But also, when they make their medicine, they use the medicinal herbs and they make medicine.
Oh, I didn't know that.
They make medicine that's called propolis. And propolis is made, they make it in, often they start in early spring, when you hardly think bees could be out. And they'll be gathering the sap from trees when the sap first starts running. And they bring that home and they make a medicine with a little bit of essential oils that come from those herbs and other local plants. And every beehive makes a medicine that is specifically for that hive in that area, in that kind of broader area. So for example, I live about 10 miles from my dear friend Susan Nylands, who also keeps bees. The propolis in my hives is a really beautiful, rich red maroon color. And down in her area, I forgot, I think it's a little bit of a greener color in there. She's 10 miles away as the crow flies, but she has different things growing. She's along the gorge. She's got different things growing down there. So her bee medicine is a little different than my bee medicine up here.
Wow.
I have a friend in Colorado, and he has a lot of bees. Corwindell and he's a bee teacher, and he's always in his area. And his is green. It is definitely a middle green, not too bright, not too dark. And he was just amazed that I had propolis that was red. So
Amazing.
they make it, so anyone who's wanting to help bees, just go out and plant big clumps of herbs. And I can even give you another tip on this too. Bees come to pollinate, and they go from flower to flower to flower to pollinate. If you've only got one little lavender bush there, it's just not worth the trip. You know, when you're planting, it's better for bees if you actually plant in big clumps of things. So plant a whole bunch of Rudbeckia, brown-eyed Susans, or a whole bunch of rosemary bush, let it be a big bush or a few bushes together. And that will really draw the bees to come do their task of pollination and have enough to merit it. Sometimes I'll hear people say, well, I live in town and bees never come to my yard. And I think part of it may be too many people spraying with chemicals around. That would cut down on bees in the air. But I think sometimes it's also, there's just not enough to be worth the trip.
Ah, that's a good point. That's really good. Well, I think you've learned a lot from bees beyond that, because that's very important for us who aren't going to be beekeepers but love bees. So we now know what we can do is start a movement of bee flowers and clumps, big amounts, so they can be worth their while. But you've written a book, in the book Song of Increase. How did that come about?
Yes, this is my book. That's my poster.
Yeah.
I had been intently, when I first got bees, I didn't know anything about them. And I really, really, really wanted to help them. And most of the ways that virtually everything I was learning was something that was, it just didn't sit right with me. It was more like factory farming bees and maximizing the honey production. And I kept thinking, I don't think this just isn't the way that things are gonna work out well. I'm sorry about the phone. I forgot to turn it off.
That's part of life, no problem.
Anyway, I came to them every day in an intently prayerful manner saying, I want to help you. I don't know how to do it. It was before the time of the internet. It was before the time when bees became popular and more books were written. And I was pretty much on my own. So I just tried to connect with them and listen to them and pay attention. And then one day, about 6 years in, they started actually conveying to me information that was really significant.
So what is it you think, or not think, because you had experience with what they've been telling you? So what would be most valuable? I mean, what has proven most valuable to you, and how has it impacted your life?
I think the concept of how they work together as one, that's really been the most profound teaching I've gotten from them. And it's made me pay more attention to how I too am connected as a body of work, a body of consciousness, that we are all connected. That we all deserve forgiveness, that we all deserve to be loved, and that all of this working together is more important than my individual singularity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, holding on to blaming or hurting. I've been hurt, it's your fault, that kind of thing, which divides us up.
Yeah,
You don't see that in the
yeah.
community.
Yeah, it creates separation, and it just makes conflict, and we don't really need that. We need to learn to work together, and the bees are such an amazing model for that. Everything they do is for the good of all of them. It's for the good. I watched one time this happen. There was a bee. I was just sitting next to the bees one day watching them, like I often do. I've spent one day, I figured out it was like my first 1,000 hours watching bees. And I was sitting there watching them, and I saw this little bee land, and she started to walk inside. And one of they have guard bees at the front door that, you know, kind of check everybody and make sure that, you know, only the right bees are coming in. He's coming in the front door, and the bees at the front were saying, you know, everybody come in, come in. You smell like our queen. That's how they tell. And she got to the front door, and they went, no, and they turned her away. And she walked off a little bit, and she turned and looked. And she was as surprised as I was. And I could see she had pollen on her legs. I mean, she was just coming home from a trip. And so she turned around, she walked to the front door again, and the bee came out and just turned her away again. And she stood at the end. And I was thinking, oh, I could see she was an older bee. Her wings were kind of tattered. She was at the end of her life, but she was still working, and they'll work till they die. And what this bee at the door was saying was her pheromone of health wasn't strong enough anymore. She had tattered wings. She was still doing her job, but she was at the end of her life. And for the good of the hive, it was better if she departed. And so she started to walk off in the other direction. And I picked her up on my finger and put her back at the front entrance going, no, she's still a good worker. She's still got pollen on her feet. And she got off my finger and didn't even wait for them to come. She turned around and started walking off. And I did it again because I'm human and I thought I was helping. And I put her down in the middle of the entrance, and she said, no, for the good of the hive. And she didn't say it, but I understood it. For the good of the hive, she's past her prime working time. They only live about 45 days. And she was at the end of it. And she got to the end, and she walked off. And this is up on my second floor deck. She walked off. She jumped down from there, fluttered down from there, walked over to the edge, and just leaped off and let herself fall into the rosemary bush down on the first floor. And I just remember thinking, what a self-sacrifice that is. That had she gone in and died inside, then they've got to get the crew to drag her body out and to fly off and deposit it somewhere else. She chose that she was done helping, that it was her time and she was complete. And I just remember thinking, you know, there's a perfect example of, for the good of the hive, for the good of us all, a recognition of, you know, that she was complete. So anyway, I'm not sure I'm explaining that well or not, but it was a very moving moment for me to see that this wasn't like the bees at the entrance going, oh no, stay out, you can't come in. It was more just an acknowledgement of what is. And that she got that information and said to herself, they're right, it is time. It's time for me to go. And off she went. Wow.
How about
amazingly conscious?
Yeah, and like you say, what is the good of the whole is also, because that's a guidance, that's a guiding factor, isn't it?
And does this choice I'm making right now, I mean, we can bring this out right into the full environment. Is this choice I'm making right now to take a plastic spoon to eat with, you know, is this a choice that's for the good of all?
That's right.
You know, if that same idea, I brought it into everything that we do, we would probably make 100 different choices in a day.
Yes, we would. So how about reading something from your book before we end?
Well, every chapter in the book has 3 different parts to it. The first part is a story of something that I did with the bees where I learned something. Second part is if there's any kind of knowledge you need in order to understand something, that would be where I did little extra facts maybe, although it's not written very factually. And then the third part of the book is and what the bees have to say about that. So when I was in the part of my life when I was learning a lot about the unity of the hive, I was really asking the bees how to do this. And so I'm going to read you something from the very beginning of the book. This is the idea of being in unity with all that surrounds us at first surprised me. I was used to having personal territory that I assumed needed protecting. Being in a place of unity wherein I'm enfolded into a shared life is curiously different. I feel both supported and protected, which in turn makes me feel more open. As I sit next to a hive watching bees flying in and out, my mind clears of conscious thought and I enter a deep state of bee meditation. Many bee stewards, I'm sure, know this state. We sit next to the hive, and as the sound of the hive enters us, we find ourselves in a deep reverie that opens our hearts. The bees draw us into our opening heart, and welcome us there. It is a heart filled with great love and great activity. And then the bees say this in their own words. We wake up we wake up to the understanding that we are all one, all the time. Human beings exist connected to each, but believe that they are not. Honeybees dwell in the full realization of that connection and have done so for eons. The unity we embody is a reflection of the kingdom-wide unity that dwells in us all. This is the gift we bring, complete sacred unity in body and spirit. To be in the presence of Spirit, God, to simply sit and be in such presence, offers the opportunity to be transformed by it. This we offer you. Come, sit, be with us. Drink in the unity as you would fresh rain. We offer our gift with great joy and love.
Oh, beautiful.
You're so eloquent.
And they have what we need, not just the honey.
Yeah.
The honey
Yeah. Oh, thank you for saying
that. But they have some things. So thank you for being their voice in the way you are their voice. So I appreciate that. And of course, the book is available both on your website, spiritbee.com, right?
Yes.
I'm sure other places too, but thank you so much, Jacqueline. Is there anything else you'd like to say before we close?
I'm so glad you invited me. That was a delightful conversation, and I do hope more people understand the magnificent consciousness that dwells in bees.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Sharon.
Second that. Thanks. Blessings.